What is the number one shift you can make in your identity as a real estate investor that will take you to the next level? That is what this video is all about. Enjoy learning about Brute Force Bob and 80/20 Adam. I wanted to introduce Brute Force Bob once again. We talk about Brute Force Bob all the time because this is the majority of real estate business owners. They're at the center of their business. They're the CEO, the chief everything officer. They're literally doing everything at once at about 1/10 of the capacity that that thing deserves, right? And the crazy thing is, if you relate to this, you understand it. You're trying to add things to your plate, thinking that it's going to make everything else easier. And I would argue that that strategy is probably the reason that you're watching this video now. It's because it hasn't served you. It got you to where you need to be. You have some traction. You got some deal flow. You have a proven revenue model, but it's certainly not scalable in that if you were to, let's say, 10x the volume of leads that you had come in, this guy in the center would just be spinning in circles and nothing would get done. You are basically the single point of failure. And we want to remove the single point of failure. And we don't want to just constantly be looking for things to add to our plate. It's like a ridiculous notion to think that everybody is so busy, but they're trying to add stuff. Since when is more the solution to having too much, right? And so I'd like to run through what the difference is between Brute Force Bob and 80/20 Adam, we'll call him. 80/20 Adam has the infrastructure of the 80/20 OS built underneath of him. And he's got the identity of someone that operates their business the way that I'm going to describe. So I can hand you the operating system, I can give you the infrastructure, but it's up to you to really take on the identity of an entrepreneur that leverages systems and people to create a self-sustaining business that can scale and eventually sell. And if you do not change that identity, then you'll always be stuck in Brute Force Bob land. Brute Force Bob is an opportunity seeker. He's just looking for the next best thing, jumping from strategy to strategy without actually finishing any one strategy. He's a solopreneur, meaning he does everything himself. He's basically, in the rich dad quadrants, he's in the self-employed box, hasn't quite shifted up to business owner. He seeks shiny objects. He thinks that in order to win, you need to be the fastest one to get the next shiny object. So what do? You go on every single webinar, you watch every single guru infomercial, you really look under every single rock thinking that that is how you succeed. And I'll tell you from experience, it is not how you succeed, okay? Short-term thinking is where the current tactic is the product. You are focused, in 1 to 1 month intervals, and you are really just focusing on the current tactic or even the current deal of the moment, and that's like your sole focus, which keeps you in the business. Scarcity thinking. There's not enough deals in my market. I'll never be able to hire someone. There's too much nuance in acquisitions. How can I ever hire an acquisitions person? I'm the only one that knows how to do this. Like, I don't have enough time to do this, right? Scarcity thinking is an offshoot of, being really great at justifying and coming up with excuses. Brute Force Bob always figures out how to do stuff. He spends all this time trying to figure out how to do stuff, finding tactics, researching tools, building his own integrations, constructing his own Podio systems, learning HTML. Like, I've talked to so many accidental coders that learn how to code so that they can save 5 seconds on a text message or something like that. That is Brute Force Bob, okay? And as a result of all these things, you're probably always overwhelmed. And from a place of overwhelm, you rarely can create good output, right? From a mental place of feeling overwhelmed, you rarely can create good output in your business. You can't come up with great ideas if you are overwhelmed by the myriad of things that you have to do that day. Paralyzed by the fear of failure, right? So it stops you from trying, it stops you from shifting your strategy, your overall strategy, and it maybe even prevents you from being able to zoom out and look at the big picture altogether. Fear of failure. Another offshoot of this is the fear of success, right? What if I do become 80/20 Adam?
Will I be able to handle the responsibility of a team that is making me money every single day and giving me the lifestyle that my family and I deserve and desire? So fear of success, I would add that to the list as well. What if it does work? Oh my God. Learns by consuming content, right? I would say that this is 80-20 content right here. This doesn't really fit. This is mission critical business information that you absolutely need to understand, because this right here is like the fundamental core of why most businesses don't succeed, is because they don't make this shift. Okay. It's not the marketing. It's not your sales skills. It's not the overall strategy. It's like, if you zoom out, it's the way that you are operating your business. So you're in the right spot. Executes willy-nilly, right? So you wake up and the day just starts controlling you. You get pings on your phone. You're just reacting and putting out fires all day, and you don't have a real process or a repeatable way of doing things, executing willy-nilly. All right, we've all been there. I have certainly been there. This has been the majority of my career, until I had a lot of big clarifying moments in my career, both as an investor, then as a software business owner, and now as a mastermind facilitator. I have experienced all of these things, and I'm constantly reminded to switch into 80-20 Adam mode, because I know that from that place, everybody and all stakeholders of your company are better served. And brute force is always hunting. You're always looking for that next deal. Your income is super lumpy, meaning that it's inconsistent and it comes in spikes, and you're always on the hunt. And there's no way to live if you're always on the hunt. So let's make the switch to 80-20 Adam, okay? Like I said, I'm gonna give you the infrastructure in these videos. I wanted to give you this primer so you understand exactly why these things actually matter. And the infrastructure is one thing, but I need you to shift your identity. I need you to shift your mindset towards 80-20 Adam's thinking processes, so that you'll actually use the infrastructure. Okay, if you do not make that identity shift, the behavior will not follow. 80-20 Adam executes one core business model. He finds the one thing that works, and he does more of that. He makes that he systemizes the thing that's working, and then that becomes his sole focus. He invests in team and systems. Obvious, right? He seeks an edge. So rather than trying to seek shiny objects and trying to add things to his plate, he's just trying to make the thing that he's doing that he knows works better. And ideally, he's installing systems for other people to do their job better and to help other people get an edge. Instead of thinking short-term, he thinks long-term business building. So the deal or the thing that the fire you're putting out that day is not the product. The whole business is the product. Like I say, build the machine that builds the machine. Got that from Elon Musk, who had built a gigafactory here in Texas, right up the street from me, that is literally like one giant robot that cranks out Teslas. Raw materials come in one end, Teslas come out the other end, and he's invested so much money innovating the gigafactory and the whole process of manufacturing that investment is going to make him even more rich than he already is, because he understands this notion of building the machine that builds the machine. The whole business is the product. Abundance mindset. There's more money than you can possibly fathom, okay? And there's more opportunities than you can possibly fathom. There's more talent accessible to you than you can even imagine. There is so much just richness just in the 80-20 community itself. I see people making 6 figures a month. I see people shooting for 7 figures a month. And I also talk to people that are frankly giving up because it hasn't worked and they haven't asked for help. And I think they're coming from a place of scarcity thinking, where abundance mindset will always pull you out into not if it can be done, but how can it be done? And rather, who can help me with it, right? Figures out who. Just today, we were trying to, I let people kind of talk about tactics of integrating a phone system for 10 minutes. And then I stopped everybody and I said, stop. Who is the person that can help you figure this out? I don't want to talk about integrations on these calls. Let's just go right to the source. Who's the best person at installing phone systems for blank? Let's find them. Let's use our brains and get creative on where to find them. reach out, pay them if you have to, and then get it done. Figures out who, not how. It's like the ultimate hack. Great book as well. Instead of being overwhelmed, you take yourself out of overwhelm by simply making a battle plan. I'm going to show you how to do this in the OS. Instead of being paralyzed by failure, you realize that failure is the only way to improve. The only way to improve. They say that the master is the one who's made all the mistakes, right? You achieve mastery by just staying in the game long enough, which will eventually you'll have made all the mistakes that you become a master. That's how you improve. You should learn from your mistakes and learn that's just growth. Failure is growth. Learns by consuming content is brute force Bob. Learns by doing is 80-20 Adam, right? You do with intention and you learn from the outcomes of what you do. Failure is just a word. It's just the outcomes that happen. If your marketing campaign isn't producing a great result, that is an outcome. It is not a failure, and you correct course. Instead of executing willy-nilly, you use data and you execute by the numbers. We'll talk about how to build out the stoplight system. And instead of always hunting for the next deal, you're always building. You're always building your machine and momentum stacking, I call it. You free up time so that you can create and invest money back into systems and processes, which will free up even more time, which means you can focus on higher and higher leverage activities. And eventually you can work above your business. Okay, there's another chart that I'll show later where you're in the business and you're working to get on the business so that eventually you can be working above the business, allocating capital towards businesses and operators and building wealth.